Hi, I'm Sophie and I would like to show you around my dice app. Don't be intimidated by the runtime of this video. Everything that you need to know is probably going to get covered in the first 30 seconds. The rest is just for kind of advanced use. So if you look at the bottom, you can see that there are a bunch of dice you can choose from. You can just click or tap and it will throw out whatever dice that you ask it for. The results are tallied up in the top left, so you can save yourself a little counting. When you want to get rid of dice, you just press this little cross button, and there you go. That's basically all the features of most other dice apps covered, and you can do it here too. If you want to know the advanced stuff, I'm going to cover that now. I'm going to list a bunch of features that the application has, and there'll be timestamps, and you can just skip to whichever part is relevant for you. I'll start out talking about dice control. That's basically just what you can do with dice once they're out in the dice tray. There's quite a bit of options. Then I'll go on to roll history, which lists a lot of the rolls that just came before in great detail. Then I will cover the example dice that are included in the app. There are a lot more than just your the standard ones that you can see on the hotbar right now. Then I'll cover creating dice and customizing them. This app is made to be highly customizable. I know that everyone's very passionate about their dice. If they're using them for role-playing and things like that, you want dice to match your character perfectly. This is going to get covered there. Then I'll talk about the graphics and the environment. So if you want to change how the dice tray looks, the lighting, things like that. I'll also cover the UI size. I know that sometimes on mobile devices especially, the user interface can be a bit small. This is just how to fix that as like a first step. So if that's your priority, then go check that out. Then I will cover dice expressions. This is basically how to type in an expression, and it will roll a bunch of dice that matches that expression. I'll go over that in more detail there. Like it's a very in-depth topic. After that, I will cover some camera settings in case you don't like the way that the dice are viewed by default. Then I'll cover some accessibility settings that just might be useful for people with low vision or get disoriented easily, things like that, or they want to customize the controls. Yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the basics of dice control are, like I said, you can click dice on the hotbar and it will throw them out. You can also drag dice if you would like to not throw it immediately. And if you're whilst you're dragging dice, you can add more to what you're currently dragging by right-clicking or tapping the hotbar with another finger if you're on mobile. So if I wanted to add a couple of d20s, I just right-click the d20 twice, and there we go. I've got extra dice in my hand which I can throw out just like that. If I want to re-roll a single die, I can pick it up like that, just straightforward click. If I want to re-roll all of the dice, I can just click in the dice tray. Anytime I say click, it also applies as a tap on mobile as well. So a single click will re-roll all of the dice, or if you're on mobile, you can shake the device and that will re-roll all of the dice as well. And the clear button over here we've already covered. That's just going to remove everything in the dice tray so you can just start fresh. Okay, for more advanced control of the dice, you can click a die without holding it down and it will bring up the control menu. You can press the trash can to remove this dice completely from the pool of dice that you've thrown out. The little cross will disregard it, so it's not counted in the result in the top left now. So if you see, if I undisregard it, or re-regard it. If I regard this dice, it will add 7 to the total result there. So if there's results that you don't want included, what's an example of this? When you're rolling character stats in Dungeons & Dragons, you might roll 4 6-sided dice and then get rid of 1. You can do that just like this, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then say, I don't want this 4. And then we have a stat that I can use for a character. Another setting is pinning the dice. So pinning, like if I want to like grab this, oh, I didn't mention, yes, instead of just like clicking the tray, if I hold the tray, it will pick up all of the dice that are not currently pinned. That pinned die will stay there pinned unchanged until I remove the pin from it. So if you have a roll that you want to keep and don't want it to change, I think Yahtzee might be an example of that kind of behavior that you might want. So you can do that. And then the final button on the bottom right there is a simple re-roll, just to re-roll that die. And by default you can double click or double tap a die to re-roll it and just do that one automatically. There are also, if you see here, it's showing the current value of the dice above those buttons, but if you click this, you can change this. So this is useful for if you're playing a game that allows you to nudge the dice rules, or you're using dice as spin down or counters, things like that. So you can make changes to the dice there, and this will be reflected in the results as well. So if you're a game master and you're worried about players just saying, "Oh yeah, I totally rolled a 20," it will show a little icon in the results there to say, "Well, part of this result was adjusted." So that is the basics of dice control. There are some settings that might be relevant. If you click the little options button here and go to settings, dice, the two ones that are most useful are rotating to read, which will, after the dice have settled, they will turn so that they are oriented to be read, simply. And there's also this group after all setting. By default it's on, but if you prefer it off, and where the dice land matters, so that might be useful for scatter dice, or if you're doing things to like do map generation, things like that, where it's where the dice land matters, you can disable grouping after rolls or re-enable it. So yeah, those settings might be useful. Right, now I would like to talk about roll history, which you can get in the settings menu. It's this button on the side here, and it's the very first one. Now you can see all of our recent rolls are listed here. They're listed with the time, the name of the result, and what the result was. These can be expanded, so you can see per die what's happened and get the very specific results that way. There are also little icons to indicate certain parts of the roll. So if you see these little dots here, like these things, that indicates that some of the dice were not rolled to get this result. They were rolled in a previous roll. So in this case, 3 of the dice have these little dots next to them. That means that only this dice was rolled, and that the 4 and the 2 1s were rolled prior to this particular result. You can also see if dice were pinned during the roll. So this 6 did not come up during this roll, it happened elsewhere. And there are other little icons that appear as well, just so that you can understand the roll result and how fair it was, basically. By default, you're not going to see anything really, and you can consider every roll in the app a fair roll. Oh, before I forget, you can right-click or long press on mobile to copy a result to clipboard. There's also a shortcut you can set up to copy the current roll result, but I find it's easier just to copy roll results from the history sometimes. Okay, the next thing I would like to talk about is the example dice that are included in the app. Obviously, if you just want, the standard Dungeons and Dragons dice, or like a pipped d6 or a coin, like the most common dice stuff that you would want, it's already out there. But if you're wanting to get more fancy, there are a variety of included example dice in the dice bag in the bottom left here. So let's explore this. I'm going to ignore the things on the bottom right for now. We'll cover that when we get to dice expressions later in the video. To start with, you're probably, like, if you're watching this video, you're probably going to go straight to the RPG dice. There are a bunch of included examples here. So there's some Blades in the Dark, which is basically just a simple d6, but there are included dice expressions to help make Blades in the Dark rolls simpler. There's a Fudge die, or a Fate die, depending on which you prefer to call it. There's some simple stuff for, like, rolling a Dungeons and Dragons character. So we've got a dwarf druid. That's exciting. Okay. There's also narrative dice. These are like your Star Wars dice. So if you play Star Wars, there you go. There's also the storytelling system dice. This is your World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, this kind of business. So if you like your grim dark RPGs, then you're set. So yeah, there's a variety of options here. There's also divination stuff. So like this is the equivalent of a magic 8-ball. So what can we ask? Is this demonstration video going to go well? Oh, outlook positive. Wonderful. There's a bunch of other divination dice that I have. Card dice, a variety of board game dice. You can explore these to your heart's content. They're mostly just included as an example of the kinds of dice that you can make yourself, and I will cover that a little later in the video. But also just to save you time having to make them yourself if they're something that you want to use. They're there. Feel free to use them or edit them and make them your own. Now, let's get into the meat of why I made this dice application in the first place, which was customizing dice. You can right-click or long-press any of the dice on the hotbar, and you'll get some options to delete, make a clone of the dice, a copy of it, move it to a different dice bag, or the spanner icon, which will let you edit that die. So this is the D12 that comes with the app, but we can make it our own. We can change the name of the die. It's D12 by default, but we can name it whatever we want, and that will be relevant for if we use it in dice expressions. Not important if that's not something you're planning to do. So let's make this a new dice. We'll start by changing its shape. The dodecahedron is a very nice shape, but we have other options. By default, this will be by category, I believe. So our dodecahedron is right here, but we have, like I say, other options. I have included hundreds of dice shapes in this, and it has taken me years to put them all together. But I am very happy with the options that we have. Let's keep it at D12, so we'll sort by face count and go to 12. Scrolling down. Come now. Okay, here we go. So we've got some interesting stuff, and if you want to preview it, you can just click it and, take a look. I am partial to a rhombic dodecahedron myself, but there are other options. I will explain what you can see here. So the top left number will tell you what number of sides the shape has. Besides that is the standard deviation percentage. So this is just, I have tested every shape to make sure that it is fair. And basically this is just me showing my work. Every die shape has been rolled 1,000 times how many sides it has. So this will have been rolled 12,000 times and had a standard deviation percentage of 0.63%, which is a bit better than expected, but it's kind of around there. You'd expect it about 1%, or at least I would. Although it doesn't actually matter, because even though I have tested the shapes and done my best to make sure that they work, and like that's what that shows, that like I didn't find any bias when I was testing it. I have systems so that even the shapes that would be unfair in real life do roll fair in the app, unless you make some actual changes later on. We'll talk about that. There's the name of the shape and the actual icon. Some shapes have unique aspects. For example, this triachis tetrahedron has this icon which indicates it uses an inverted collider. What that means is that basically this 12 does not have an opposite face, it has an opposite edge. So in real life, like if it landed on the 12 on the surface, it would have like this edge here pointing up. So you wouldn't be able to read it without picking it up and reading the 12. For this kind of shape, I have an inverted collider. So let me just save this as a copy so you can see. We still get face pointing upwards, but the collider that's actually interacting the table is inverted. So you can't see it, but it is the same shape, inverted, so that what you do see kind of makes sense. There is also another setting, which, where am I looking? Yes, this other icon right here, that indicates that the shape, the faces are not all of the same. So in real life, even if I was to change like an inverted collider or something, this shape would not roll fair in real life because not all of the faces are identical. But again, you don't need to worry about that in the app. If you find a shape in here and you like it, it will roll fair. Don't worry about it. I could go into extensive detail about how I made that happen, but for now I will just say, trust me, bro. You can be all right. Anyway, like I say, I like the rhombic dodecahedron. It is a favorite of mine and many other nerdy people because dodecahedrons are cool. I'm getting distracted. Let's go now on to editing the dice style. We can adjust its size, so if you don't like how big it is relative to other dice, you can make that change. You can change the shape of its edges, so dice can either be like have these rounded, soft edges, or sharp, like very cut edges. There's also a button to just like quickly randomize the style, so you can, get a variety of different options. You can copy. The style it's not an actual copy, but the program remembers the last style that you copied, and then I can randomize it and just paste that style. So if there's something that you like and don't want to lose it, you can just copy it and then, experiment and find something else that you like. And yeah. There's a variety of shaders, which is basically just the kind of material that you're using. This is a clear dice. There's one with glitter. Wow. Foil. Glowing dice has some of the colors emitting light, so if you change the environment lighting later on, it can be a glowing dice. And then we have magic, which is a very specific effect. We'll keep it on standard now. I'll make it not metallic, but very shiny, very glossy. And we can change the surface texture. So, just make it whatever you like. Let's make that with the round corners, because, oh yes, very nice and shiny there. We can change the colors. By default, I think most dice will have 2 colors. If you want a single color, you can do that. Keep it simple. If you want 2 colors, you can pick a secondary color and then choose how the 2 blend together. There's different patterns that you can choose from. And then choose how they blend together. This is looking quite nice. I think it's kind of like a sea kind of creature's die is this one. You can adjust the font of the die. You can also, there's a setting for using fonts that your operating system has. It doesn't work on all platforms, but it's worth checking if you have a particular font that's not included and you want to use that. Let's go with this one. Like, this is nice and friendly. You can also choose which, as you can see, like whichever face is pointing up most, that's the face that gets red. You can choose to have that highlighted or just have all of the face colors be the exact same. You can also adjust the size of all of the faces and give them a little bit of a spin. So if you want them to be rotated, that's an option. The final two options at the bottom of this side of the screen are the dice character and hotkeys. Hotkeys are very simple. If like I want, like this is a D12, so I mean, let's say I roll it on a T. So if I press T on my keyboard, let's just save this. If I roll T, if I press T, it's gonna roll that dice, so I don't need to go to the hotbar. Like I could even be in a different dice bag and press T, and it's still gonna roll. It's worth noting that works also on mobile if you hook up a keyboard or even a gamepad. There is also this setting of dice character. By default, it is perfectly fair. Like I say, all of the dice, unless you make some changes, are going to come out as fair dice. Otherwise, it can have realistic bias. The thing is, dice in real life are never perfect because nothing in life is, perfect and exact. There's always going to be a little slight change. The realistic bias does that. How much does it do it? You shouldn't be able to notice. But if you're someone who likes to believe that your dice have a personality, you can enable this and believe that the dice is sometimes your friend, maybe sometimes it's your enemy. You won't know. So to be clear, the dice shapes that are fair in real life are basically fair even with the realistic bias. But the dice shapes that are not fair in real life, those are going to be a bit mucky if you enable realistic bias. So whilst realistic bias is enabled, you'll be able to see that the results have italicized display. So you'll know if that's been applied to any of the dice in the results. So like the D20 here is using perfect fairness setting, but because this result includes potentially biased dice, it's still italicized. Yeah, I could go into detail about that. For the most part, the dice will roll as you would expect in real life. Like this is not a way to load the dice. And the way that it happens is randomized by all of the settings of the dice. So if I change the face size just a little bit, then that's going to completely change the bias of the die. So the only way to actually find out what the bias is yourself would be to roll it thousands of times and see what comes up. Otherwise, I would just treat the realistic bias as if you are rolling a real dice. Otherwise, the perfect fairness, just assume it is an ideal dice. So that's all of the core settings. There are also a bunch of other settings on the right side of the screen, and these relate to each individual face. So if I want to change the number one face to actually say, there we go. So I can say, oh, this face should have 100. Let's just put the spin back just so I can see what I'm doing. I can also say, well, actually, this first face is going to be a win. Like it can be the result win. So that's an option. You can specify a range. So right now it's a range between 1 and 10. So it could come up 1, it could come up 10, or anything in between. Let's put it 1 and 100. Like I've made a D100. Let's save these changes and throw it out. As it rolls, it will randomly change between the two things that we've selected. Let's just spin it back to that 1 to 100. We got a 44. So that's a way to the percentile dice that's included by default also does this for every face. Each one has like 10 possible numbers that it could roll, and oh, 97. That's a pretty good roll. So that's how that one works. Wow. Or we could have this face just be a reroll. So if it lands on this face, the dice is just going to keep rolling And if you wanted, you could have every face be a reroll and the dice will never stop. Let's go back to just keeping this as 1. We can change the display of this, so we could have it as just 1 as we were. I could also be like fly. I don't know why I thought fly, but fly, when it lands on this, it will still display 1 in the results because that's what the value is, but this is what it shows on the die itself. Worth noting that you can do things like have markup in this, so I can underline it, I could italicize it. I think I can change the color of the fonts as well, like within the thing, but yeah, but I can also make it pips. Well, an image. Let's choose an image. This is a 1. Let's pick a skull. I'm feeling menacing. And so yes, if you want an image, it is right there. On most platforms, you can also click this little plus in the top right, and that will let you pick images from your system, and you can have your own images on the dice itself. Let's just move on. Any image can also become pips. This is the 1 face, so it starts out with 1 pip, but we can make this 2, we can make it 5, and as you can see, it's turning the thing into pips. There are also extra options. As you can see, these pips in particular have gone beyond the bounds of the face there, so we can adjust the size of the pips. We can spin this face, and this is basically the same thing as these settings, but it's only for this 1 face that it's affecting. We can also have it play a sound effect if the die lands on this face. What's good here? Like creature screech. Sorry, that's kind of horrible. Let's do a crowd cheering. We can also play some visual effects. There are only a few of these, but they can add a little pizzazz to certain rolls. So let's add some blood spray for the skulls. Ooh, it went splat. You can also adjust the face color independent of the other faces. Let's make them some red skulls. Yes. Okay, very dramatic. Save those changes. And then when I roll it out... Oh! What are the odds? 1 in 12. But yeah, that's what we did. So you can do that for every single face to customize your dice completely. You don't have to customize dice. You can make completely new dice. Just hit the little plus icon and then hit the plus there, and you'll be back in this menu with randomized dice for you to edit. You can also make new dice bags and include a bunch of dice, including the style that we copied earlier. So let's just take a look at that. So we have like a new set that might be suitable for a particular character that we were looking at. Alright, next let's talk about the graphics and the environment. These are all going to be in the settings here. Let's just throw some dice out just so that we've got something pretty to look at whilst we're playing with the settings. Go to settings. Graphics is probably going to be your first bet if you have the issue of the user interface being too small. You can just adjust this slider and get it to something that's comfortable for you. Here is also where you will adjust the quality of the application. If it's running a little slow, you can bring the quality down, disable some of the special effects, and just generally get it working nicely for you. Then we're going to check out the environment. Here is where we're going to customize our dice tray. By default, we've got a nice cherry wood. You can have walnuts, beech. There's also some baize textures. Steel, a variety of like magical things, and just so that you can customize the place and get it to feel like it's your dice tray. You can adjust the colors as well. Let's make this green. Yes, I like green. You can also change the lighting if you think that you want to change like the mood around the dice. This is also an option for you. Also worth mentioning, if you are rolling dice for inclusion in videos and other things, you can set the background to be a chroma keyed colour. I would pick a colour that does not clash with any of the dice. I have a video about that, I will link it below. Alright, now we have a big, deep section, but one you might find interesting is dice expressions. If we click this button that's the square root of a d8, which is probably not something you would actually want, we can have like this little text input bar. So let's put down, like your game master might say, hey, roll 4d6. So you could just type 4d6 and it will roll 4 6-sided dice. This uses, there isn't really a standard dice notation, but as far as there is a standard, it uses that. You can check the settings here and press the online documentation button. There is a lot in the section that I have written up for dice notation, but generally you can punch in dice that you want to roll, the number of them, the number of faces, and you can add little math things, so plus 5. So it's going to roll 40, like honestly, let's just roll a d6 plus 5 because I can't do the math to confirm very quickly. So a 2 plus 5 is 7. So you can see that it will, you know, like all rolls, it will appear in the roll history. So you can see everything that went into the roll right there. Now, if there's an expression that you use a lot, say that we have to do a d6 plus 5 a lot in our game, we can click the plus and then hit this button to save our roll expression. So you can see it here, d6 plus 5, it's got the one that it'll copy whichever roll result is out in the tray at the moment, but you can type your own in here. We can choose an icon for this, so we'll say this icon, roll label, and we'll call this attack, because why not? And we can also specify a hotkey to roll it, just like we can for dice. Let's hit save changes, and then there is our attack roll on the hotbar. So I can just click that and it will roll d6 plus 5 anytime we need that. There are also a variety of saved example roll expressions that you can check out, and you can edit these to see what they look like, just like you can edit dice. So this is 5d2 exclamation mark, which is 5d2 exploding. So it will roll 5 2-sided dice and the dice will explode on a 2. I think this goes on for quite a while, but let's take a look at it. There we go. See, any 2s become new dice that also explode when they roll a 2. So you can explore expressions that way. There's also this dice bag, which contains a bunch of tutorial expressions, which can take you through all of the basics of multiple dice pools. So this is a d6 plus 4d8 minus 3. So it can start out very simple. There's a bunch of roll conditions that can be applied to rolls. So for example, this is 2d20 and we keep the highest, which is like rolling with advantage in Dungeons and Dragons. There's a variety of roll conditions that you can use. There's also functions that you can use for rounding dice if rounding is important in the rules that you're using. Just the examples are here for you to kind of explore. I'm not going to go into too much detail because basically this is a very powerful part of the app, and to go into all of the details of it and all of the ways that it can work with one another is a lot. If you have any difficulty with it, you can send me a message on socials or on one of the forums for the application. Now, part of the thing that you might think about is, you might say, well, Sophie, a d6 plus 5 happens a lot, but actually my character's just leveled up, so really it's a 7 that it needs to be. So you can do that and edit your thing for every time you need to make a change. But what if you just had to add, say, your character's strength? d6 plus strength. Well, here's where you tell the dice what the strength is. So if we go into our menu here and click user values, let's just delete Sophie the dice witch. That's just an example to start with. We add a new value sheet. That's like having a new character sheet. So we'll call our character Skippy the character, and we'll add a value of strength. And we say it's 7 now. We leveled up. So if I roll this, a d6 plus strength, 4 plus 7 is 11. So when I change this, I can say, hey, I've leveled up again. It's now 8. So all of the saved rolls that use the term strength, they apply here. And this works also for dice pools as well. So if you're playing a game where your strength decides how many dice you roll, I can say strength d6, which is going to roll 8d6 because my strength is 6. And if you want to say, well, disable Skippy, I'm playing as a different character, you can uncheck Skippy, add a new character sheet, and edit them to have their own strength value. So you can move between different games, different characters, and keep track of things that way. Now, let's say everything before has just not been nerdy enough for you, and you're someone who is making your own say role-playing game or board game, and you need to know the statistics for certain kinds of dice. Say what's 4d6 compared to 64? What does that look like? You can roll it out a few times in the app, or you can long press or right-click this button in the bottom right to get the expression testing interface up. This will sample many rolls of the expressions that you enter and show you the results. So we can see result 2 here is 64, result 1 46. So you can see like kind of what the odds look like after 5,000 rolls, and you can adjust in the settings how many rolls happen per frame and what the maximum amount is. So we can compare and see like, okay, well, about half of the rolls are less than or equal to 14.5. It's in between. But it's better on another thing. Like I say, this happens through sampling, so it's if you have something that happens very rarely, so let's say d20 exploding as an example, so a d20 that explodes on a 20, you can see some of these outcomes are missing. That's because they just didn't come up in 50,000 samples of this expression. So you might want to increase the number of samples to get a better picture of rolls that have very rare results, or just understand that rolls with very rare results are probably not ones you want in your game. But it is useful just for if you're like a dungeon master and you want to know exactly how unlikely it was to get 2 1s on a roll with advantage. You can say, well, it's about 0.29%. Like it's not going to be exact, but it's about that. So that is something that's available if you are particularly nerdy and you want to know the statistics for a thing. Now, if you don't like the way that the camera behaves by default, that can be adjusted. If you go to Settings and then View, we can enable the top-down camera, so we're always viewing the dice tray from above. We can also manually control the camera using hotkeys that are specified in the control settings. So if I want it, I can have the dice here by default, have the camera here by default, and reset it back to normal whenever suits me. Speaking of control settings, let's move on to the things that might be relevant for accessibility needs. If we go into our menu and go to Control, we can configure the inputs here. So every shortcut can be customized. So for keyboard and mouse, but also for gamepad if you have that connected to your device as well. And like I say, that works on mobile also. So this menu will be available whatever device you are using the app on. Another view setting for the camera is we can change the camera motion to low motion. By default, the camera moves around all of the time which can be disorienting if you get dizzy easily, or if motion sets you off. So if you prefer to have the camera wait for all of the dice to settle before moving, that is an option for you. Another setting you might like is to have the results spoken aloud. I've recorded my voice saying a lot of different numbers, so just hit speak results and
21.
And there you go. It won't be able to read some of the custom string values that you might enter, but a lot of the common ones like success, miss, hit, that kind of thing, those should work fine. And that's basically it. There are obviously some other settings and things that I haven't gone into, but you should know enough now to be able to explore comfortably and find whatever it is you need. If you still have difficulty, let me know. I can be found in places linked in the video description. But yeah, if that seems interesting, check out my dice app. I think that if you enjoy dice or dice games, you will find a use for it and have a lot of fun, hopefully. That has been a priority for me in making this, is making it as fun to use as possible, as well as, you know, having as many features as it possibly could. I'll say thank you very much for watching along. Like, I know this video has gone on for a while, and yeah, I appreciate the interest, and hopefully you have some good dice rolls coming up. Alright, bye.